Hi, everybody. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards. This is, as you know, the Sunday edition. And as I have told you, on Sundays, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from my predictive work, which I know is what you all come here and love to see. But on Sundays, my intention is, and I have so far fulfilled it, is to have a guest with me. And the reason for that is that, I need community too. And I think I'd like to show you some of my community, have you meet some of my community. Last week, you met Nana Visitor, my longest friend. Um, and I want you to see what community looks like for me, in the hope that you will find yours in these hard times. So today, I have with me someone I've also known for a long time, and I'll talk about how we met in a minute. But this is Eva Yasantawa. No, I'm gonna mess it up. Hold it up. Don't tell me. Eva
I'll say it.
Yasantawa.
I'll say it.
Yasantawa. Eva
Yasantua.
Yasantawa. I know her,
Yasantua.
of course, as Eva, so I don't normally have to, but Yasantawa. So don't get it twisted. It's Yasantawa. Okay. So I'm just going to read you her bio so that you'll have a little information about who she is before we start our conversation. And I call these conversations because my goal and my intention is to not do anything, scripted, because how boring, right? But I want to have an organic, natural conversation between two friends. But here is who Ava is. Now she is retired, like me. So great. Uh, she won a 2017 New York Dance and Performance Award. It's called the Bessie, and it's an incredibly prestigious award in the arts, honoring her over 4 decades in dance criticism, journalism, curation, advocacy, and service to the community. Her most recent works in progress are contemporary fantasy novels centering Black queer characters. And I guess moving forward in the next 4 years, we're going to need some fantasy with some Black heroes. So that's great. In addition
Yes.
to her dedication to the arts, she's maintained a private practice in tarot based in animistic mediumship since the 80s. She was born in New York of Barbadian immigrant heritage and makes her home in the East Village, Lenape-Hoking. That is the native people's territory where she lives. She's a New Yorker. And I know I have a lot of Black women viewers from the diaspora, and I thought that it would be terrific to have Ava here. Um, I will say that we met years ago online. We've actually never met in person, but we know each other very well because we met through the tarot community, which is to say that, whatever your interests are, American Express used to have a commercial and they'd say, there's a card for that. Whatever your interests are, there's a community for that. And so, in these days, when you think about what can I do, find your people, find your community. And Ava is part of mine. So welcome, Ava, to the conversation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. And you started off by saying that this was not going to be what people might expect in terms of it being predictive, the predictive work that you do and do so well. But I have a feeling that whenever Black women get together, we predict a whole lot. We've been
We do.
predicting a whole lot recently as well, and we're looking at some of those predictions coming to pass. A lot of them, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, people have been, saying in the wider uh, world, they're shocked, they're horrified, they're surprised. I think we as Black women were hopeful, but I don't think that we were surprised by the outcome. I think we were disappointed, but I don't think we were surprised. Um, there's that meme that goes around. I used it in my Substack of a bunch of Black women, and they've got their afros and their locks and their different whatever, and they're drinking coffee on the roof.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
while the city burns, while the community
Hmm.
burns. And, um, and there's a lot of talk about, what is it? I love it. It's, I'm going to stay in my Black house with my Black family, doing my Black job, eating my Black food,
Hmm.
minding my Black business.
Well, Erica, and a lot of people have criticized that.
That's right.
But here's the thing. If you have been busting your ass for year after year, telling people, you better watch out, you better not cry, you know, um,
Why?
this is what's coming down the pike. And everybody's like, no, I don't want to see, I don't want to hear, I don't want to think, I don't want you, or no, you're a radical, or whatever it is. You're a Cassandra, is what you are. And the thing happens. After a while, you've got to stop and say, well, Susie Q, look, we told you so.
Right.
I hate to use the term, we told you so, but my mother had an expression which was actually kind of terrible. And she says, if you don't hear, you will feel.
Exactly.
I've heard that expression going around recently and variations on it. It's if you did not want to listen to us when we very rationally laid it out for you who these people are, what they plan to do, and they even gave you a whole damn book. What is it, 900 pages? To,
Mhm.
to put out in public what their intentions were. And you decided to just ignore all of that, or maybe be seduced by this other force because you got a notion that it might be possibly be good for you. And don't look around at me now because, I know what I have to do. I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of my people. I have to take care of my interests while you figure out what you're going to do about the move that you made, which was the wrong move, whether
So,
it was a sin of omission or a sin of commission.
right.
It was the wrong move, and you will learn. If
Now,
you don't
what I have
hear,
learned
if you don't
about,
listen, you will
that's right.
feel.
You will feel it. If you don't listen, you will feel it. Now, I
Erica,
will
what
say,
are we supposed to do? What is our responsibility to people who have, um, just totally decided that they would not pay attention to the truth? What is our responsibility at this point? So, yeah, get up on that roof and look and watch while everything is burning. But as someone has said recently, we can't quite afford to do it that way because we're going to catch hell first. So we do have to take certain actions, but the actions we take will largely be rational actions, clear-eyed actions for us, which because when we take actions for us, and this is the stuff that people don't pay attention to, when we take those actions for us, we're taking actions for the world
right, right.
and with the world in mind.
Yeah,
But it's
the world in
folks
mind.
who are only, I'm just thinking about me, who 9 times out of 10 get it wrong.
Well, let me say something about that me piece. One of the things that I notice in my viewership is that, and by the way, my viewership, they're terrific, they're kind, they're warm, they're thoughtful. There's good conversation that goes on there. But if there were a theme that feels discordant to me, it
Mhm.
would be the line, I didn't do it. I voted the right way. When you say 52%, I feel triggered. I feel attacked. And then they'll say, does any other white person, does other white woman feel like I'm feeling? Let me stop them right now on that. One of
Hmm.
the things that I think is true for Black women, which and I'm speaking primarily to women. Men, if you're watching, and I know there's 25% of you, that's good. Just sit down, relax, and listen. But one of the things that, people talk about, no group is a monolith. No group,
Yeah,
nobody's a monolith.
yeah.
And that's true for each group. However, what I said in my Substack is Black women know when it's time to act as a monolith. 92% of us said, I don't care if I'm rich, poor, retired, working, young, old, light skin, dark skin. I don't care what I am. I'm going
Hmm.
to be part of the monolith that goes to the pole and pulls the right lever for the right person. Now, I don't think white women understand themselves that way. For example, when 52%, or there have been other percentages, will be nice and we'll say 47% is still too damn high. But anyway, when 47% slash 52% go the way that they went, why are you so quick as white women, I'm asking, to run away from that fact? To run, I'm going to say, run behind our skirts. I'm with her. I'm not with them. I'm with her. No, 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 no. They are your people.
Mm.
They
Yeah,
are your people. You may not like what they did. You may not like who they are, but rest assured, they're not listening to me and they're not listening to Ava. They will listen to you.
yeah. The assignment has changed.
The assignment has
The
changed.
assignment was, you know, just rationally, just very on practical terms, make sure that you are registered to vote, get out there, get your family out there to vote, know enough about the issues, talk up the opportunity of having someone like a Kamala Harris as president, and so forth and so on. And it was very, straightforward, if you will. And, I'm sure a whole lot of people did all of that, phone banking and contributing money and what have you. The the assignment under what is coming in as a totalitarian government is going to be extremely severe
Mhm.
for all of us, actually. But in particular for the folks who feel that on their side of the fence, they allowed a lot of things to happen. It's the conversation that they always want to say, oh, liberals have to have a conversation with conservatives. The conversation needs to be amongst people who are of the same hue, you know,
Yeah,
uh, but maybe not of the same political view. But as you said, they're not going to listen to me because if they had been, they would have listened already and we would have a different outcome. That's not going to work. But what may work, the only thing that could conceivably work, is for people of good conscience who are white, white women, white men, white queer people, to get together with other white people and say, look at what is really going on here. Do you like the effect of what you're seeing? This is our handiwork, and we have to get it together to fix this. It's not the role of these people who really did a humongous amount of work already, as we always do, to fix this. It's our responsibility now. Now, the other thing about it, and I alluded to it before, is, and I think this is really relevant, is how do you look at not only your issues? Okay, so maybe the price of gas, the price of eggs, the price of orange juice is close to your intention in your heart. But this is the United States. Everything that happens in the United States socially and politically affects the rest of the world. We have to get to a place where we understand the incredible responsibility that that means. It means that we just put into, or we are about to see come into office again, someone who is really going to mess up the situation in Ukraine,
yep,
in Gaza.
yep,
Maybe they figured out something about Lebanon, but who knows if that's even going to stick.
right.
And not even just that. We're talking about the entire planet. We're talking about uh, economics. We're talking about refugees. We're talking about climate change. There isn't a blessed, bloody thing that happens in the United States politically and socially that does not affect the rest of the world. So as citizens and as voters, we have, a responsibility that is in excess of so many other nations.
That's true.
And you talk about United States thinking, it's the cock of the walk. It's the greatest nation of on earth. Our president is the leader of the free world and so forth. But on some level, it's really true. We put ourselves in this position. We amass the military that we have and the wealth that we have. And what we do and what we say carries an enormous amount of weight and consequence. That means as a citizen of this country, I can't afford to be ignorant about not only the stuff going around in my own community on my block, but the stuff going on around the world. That is my responsibility.
Well,
And to see
this
so many people walking around not even aware of the basics is really this is how we get Donald Trump yet again
well,
as
it's
president
me,
of the
me,
United States.
me, me, me. And I mean, and even on all ends of the spectrum, but again, people who will hear this critique and say, but me, I voted the right way. I did the right thing. I. If we don't understand that we are part of a larger organism, and
Yes.
if we all don't succeed, that means we all fail. It's going to be
Yeah.
problematic. Now, I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
I said this to you before we came on the air. I had a viewer who said, she really had tried and she had had a meeting about issues like this and issues of race, et cetera. And it was a failure. And I asked her, well, why was it a failure? And she said, because only white women showed up. She was white. And I said, but that was an opportunity for
Yeah.
you to talk amongst yourselves. Why would you consider it a failure when only you all showed up? But it would have been a success if some of us had shown up. I said, I'm going to tell you why, because I know already in advance. You would swivel your heads and look to us to talk about our pain, to talk about our suggestions for solutions. And the listening would have been earnest and heartfelt and entirely performative. And how would we know it's performative? Because there would be no change in behavior. No change in behavior. Now, again, I think that the culture writ large tries to tamp all women down, keep us quiet, keep us compliant, have us not talk about things that aren't nice to talk about. Well, that did not work. That plan has not worked for Black women. And so when we
Mhm.
speak up, we're considered rude, loud, abrasive, disrespectful, all of those adjectives. And white women at all costs do not want to appear to be those things. And so therefore, they don't want to talk to each other. I had another viewer who said, I need your advice. My mother is an 80, however, well, I think 84-year-old rabid racist. And, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to talk about this stuff with her. Well, she may be a lost cause. Leave her to heaven. She's only got so much time left anyway. Uh, but that doesn't mean you don't talk about these things. I think women are rewarded, white women are rewarded, they think for their silence, for their complicity, for their compliance. How many women actually said, I'm going to vote Harris, and then they went in there and they didn't? How,
Yes.
and we'll never know. How many people at Thanksgiving broke the cardinal rule? What's the cardinal rule at Thanksgiving? Don't talk about politics and religion.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? I mean, why are there certain, but they want to import us to have the conversation. I'm going to say this. We are angry, Ava and I. I know you think my voice is ASMR and I'm calm but okay, that because that's okay. But know that I am angry and that I am disappointed and that I am hurt. And know too that I am aware of who my audience is. My audience is international. There are people all over the world who love when I read on things that are not American politics. So I will be doing more of that. And I think in terms of this conversation, even what I would like to steer it towards is the diaspora. Those of us who are Black, who understand a lot of what we've said so far in this conversation already, empirically, experientially. And I want to talk about more about the concept of our role in this moment. And when I say role, I don't mean, you know, pulling our boots on and by our bootstraps or whatever that expression. I think we have a different role. Just like you said, the assignment has changed. The assignment for white women is talk amongst yourselves, handle your business. We can wave from the rooftop and lift our glass to you, but handle your business. We have a different assignment. And it's just an assignment that I don't think we've ever taken seriously or been able to take seriously, but we're going to take it. We're going to grab it and take it now. And I want to talk about it in terms of rest, and I want to talk about it in terms of community, and I want to talk about it in terms of art.
Oh,
Because
good.
art,
I'm
which
writing that
you are
down.
grounded in all of those things. I do want you to mention the what you do for us online, your
This is
seance.
Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that for a minute because I never want to have people in the diaspora, including those of us Black Americans, say, well, here they are. They're telling these white people what they need to do and how they need to do it. And, so let's not do that anymore. Let's talk about us for a minute.
Okay. Well, we're not actually, I mean, all right, we'll get to the rest part, but I just want to say that when we say we are not doing what we did before, that does not mean we're not doing anything.
That's right.
So here's where rest comes in. Um, the day when we got the election results, the day after the election, yes, no surprise for a lot of us, especially Black women. But yes, also this is a trauma, and I'll explain why it's even worse this time. We had Kamala Harris, who within, what did she have, like 2 months or something to whip
Yeah.
together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just and just did an amazing job. I wouldn't even go into all of that. We don't have time to
Yeah.
like sing her praises about how she pulled that together and her team pulled that together. But the atmosphere changed immediately after Joe Biden stepped aside and elevated her. It was like, the weight on your shoulder, the toxic air, everything was clearing out. When that happened, people began to respond differently. There was the word hope. There was action. People sprung into action. Yes, I'm going to give money. Yes, I'm going to, do phone banking or knock on doors or talk to my neighbors or whatever it was. People were energized. They were activated, right? And the atmosphere before that with Joe Biden as the candidate was not like that.
Mhm.
So, and you saw, if you watched the convention, the Democratic convention, the atmosphere was like we had never seen before at a convention. It was like a party.
Party.
It was like a disco. And that was a tremendous surprise. So when you had the defeat, all of that is crushed, all of that energy crushed. You can't, even though you're not surprised that this country could do this, you still have to deal with the fact that your body and your mind, your psyche were all revved up for something that didn't work out. So the truth of the matter is we have to be very honest with ourselves that our bodies are hurting, that when we woke up that next day, it was a kind of a shock. Some of us literally went into shock, and we had to go through the stages of grief. Just almost like someone had
I get
died.
it. Yeah.
Because in a way, it's a death of a hope,
Yep.
right? And a dream. And we know how much she put into it. which is an enormous, and even, Tim Walls also, and their families. All of the desire to have a different atmosphere around us was crushed. So rest comes from being able to, I say, to respect the different effects that are going through you physically and emotionally and mentally as you deal with something like that. Give yourself some time to sit back and respect that and to let it play out without judgment and without trying to force it to be what it's not. So that was like the first thing about resting that I really, I mean, I have to say I'm very proud of the way I handled it because I'm the kind of person I want to, fix something or do something, and I just let this thing play out
Mhm.
because I couldn't do any differently. It just would not let me do differently. So, I think it's important, especially for Black women who historically in this nation have been responsible for making other people feel better and to doing all their dirty work for them, and to cleaning up behind them, to just sort of sit back and allow themselves to watch how the body is handling stuff, how the mind is handling stuff, and let it be. So take the time for that rest. The other thing is and again, I'm following, my own patterns. Look at what it is that you first want to force yourself to do. So the first thing I actually did was I figured I'd pull together, like I love Zoom. I love the community that you can have on Zoom.
Yeah.
So I got together these just just open discussion, safe space discussion groups for people to come and talk about how they were feeling and all the thoughts that were going on, what was close to their hearts. And I did four of them. I did one actually the day of the election as we were all nervously, watching things happen. And I did one the day after. And then I think it was 1 or 2 days passed before I did two on the same day. By the time I got to that third day, I was not ready, really interested in doing any more, and I was clear as to why not. My evolution had gone from shock to sadness to absolute clear
Rage.
on rage. And I could not be in a space. Now, here, my role in the whole thing is to be gently facilitating it and not stepping on people's toes, just giving them, time and space and whatnot. I could not be in a space where I was going to hear retrogressive attitudes about what happened, or people who did not educate themselves about what was going on. I could not sit there. I could do that being the Virgo that I am, and the Black woman that I am, socialize in a certain way. I could sit there and do that and put the mask on, but that was not working for me in that moment anymore. And, praise Goddess that it wasn't, because that was not going to be good for me in any way, any form of health. It was not going to be good. And I just said, that's it. I'm not doing any more after this last one. Somebody said, "Oh, we really that." And it's like, you know what? You have, if you have Zoom and
You,
you have a community of people, get them together on Zoom and do what I'm doing. I don't have to be it. I don't have to be the person doing this every damn time.
right.
And I think that's what Black women are saying, a lot of. Community, you bring up community. So you define your community maybe a little differently. And I have a lot of different types of communities. I'm a queer woman, I'm a Black woman, I'm a woman in the arts, I'm a spiritual woman, all of these different things. But maybe at least for a moment, get with one, you know, and say, all right, here's what we are thinking, feeling, this is what we might be doing, so forth and so on. But don't push yourself to do everything for everybody.
No.
So,
Because
some
my mother
things
used
will
to say,
emerge over time, but you don't have to do everything for
everything for
everybody.
everybody. My mother used to say, if you give a party, don't put all the food out at once because people will eat it and then it's gone.
And don't have anything.
And then you don't have anything. And that's
Yeah,
the same with what feeds your own spirit. Don't put it all out there because then there's nothing for you.
exactly. I had to hold space for myself. I had to rest. I had to sleep. I had to not listen to the news. And you probably know, based on the types of things that I post on social media, I am a news hound. I keep at that stuff because I want to know and I want to be educated and informed, just for my own kind of, just that's what my head is like anyway. But I know that there is a responsibility to know about what's going on in your city, and to know what's going on in your state and your nation and how it affects the rest of the world and how the rest of the world affects us. That's a responsibility that I take very seriously. And if I hadn't been, you know, I call it journalism adjacent,
Mhm.
because, I'm not a hard news, I was never a hard news journalist, but I was an arts journalist. But even with that kind of a background, it's not even about that. It's about I really, and this is something we're going to have to watch very carefully. What's going on in the media, what's on in academia, in our school system, because they're going to take a lot of these resources away from us. They're going to compromise them, and they're not even being, secretive about that. They're telling us that this is what they're going to do. Um, I find myself not listening to the news on the radio. I haven't since the election. I haven't listened to it. I read the Times and other news sources online very selectively now.
Michael
I'll
Moore
tell,
had a
I'll
great
tell you what.
Michael Moore put a list of
One thing I will tell you about this. Um, I and I hate to actually put it this way because it sounds like I've got a big head or something. I know what's in those articles. I know what's there, why it's there, and why it is twisted in the way it is twisted. So I will read what I'm interested in reading, knowing that this one and that one is something I don't need to read anymore.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll get back to it eventually, but in that moment, I was not interested in reading any of that stuff.
I think it's important to be a good consumer of information news, not and not just well, legacy media is what Marianne from what is it? Revealing Light, I think Tarot. She's in Australia
Mhm.
and she calls it
Mm,
legacy media. And she
yes.
gets her information from sources other than legacy media. Michael Moore put out a very good list of um, other kinds of media that you might want to think about consuming.
Mhm.
Because yeah, there's a propagandistic element to legacy media.
Yeah.
And I also think you're right about sort of right sizing how much of it you listen to. I'll tell you what, I wrote about this in Substack. I had the radio on, but it was MSNBC, it was Sirius radio.
Okay.
And and so I'm, getting myself together and they're talking about they're covering the turkey pardon at the White House,
Mm,
listening to it, and everybody, the reporters are laughing and the turkeys are gobbling, and Biden is saying what he said. And all of a
yeah.
sudden, as I wrote about in my Substack, it was like the sound got warped, and the picture in my head, which was of the turkey thing that we've all seen on TV, kind of
Yes.
buckled and melted. And I turned the thing off and I said, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. We are among 5 countries that kill more people than anybody else with our
Mm,
sanctioned death penalty. And what is this little performance that we see every Thanksgiving with the turkeys, except a sort of a parody, right, of what happens to people on death row all the time? And what
yeah.
have we done? We have warped it to the point that not only is it acceptable, it's
Yeah.
cute. It's cute. It's charming. I
Yeah.
was horrified. I think there's a lot of things that we do reflexively as a country that we don't stop to think about. And then we land in the position that we're in right now.
Mm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think that's true. And it's one of the ways in which are the forces that control a lot of things keep us distracted and keep us infantilized,
That's right.
actually,
That's right.
so that we don't have the maturity to ask certain questions and to dig for certain answers and to stand up. Oh, that takes me back to the assignment now.
Mhm.
Um, Anyone who knows anything about the McCarthy era or things like the rounding up of Japanese Americans um, during World War II. All of those things are, you don't even have to reach back as far as the period of enslavement of people from Africa. More recent things show us what this nation is capable of, and also how difficult it is for a lot of people to stand up and say, I'm not for that. During the McCarthy era, you had artists who were blackballed, who lost their careers, and some of them lost their lives because they took their lives. Because someone else, from their same arts industry turned them in, spoke up against them when they were being accused of being communists. And this is something that they talk about this is the greatest nation on earth, and it can't possibly happen here. It's happened here. A lot of things have happened here from the very beginning. We are capable of anything. So the assignment now is, what kind of citizen are you going to be? Are you going to be the kind of citizen who allows this to go on? Who maybe turns in your next door neighbor because that person is undocumented? you know, or who is very ready to talk down someone who has an academic position, who may be talking about a controversial issue that is not in favor for this government. How do we see our responsibility to our neighbors, to our nation, to our communities
Well,
at a
I
time
think
when all of this stuff is going to be really heating up? It's
prior
no
to that,
joke.
prior to that, there are people who need to do a little prep work for that. So funny that you brought up McCarthy and the 1692 witch trials, because one of my running themes, my viewers will know this, is I talk about Arthur Miller's The Crucible, which was
Yes.
written during the McCarthy era, but it's
Mm-hmm.
about 1692 Salem. And there's a
Yes.
character in that play who's a real guy. His name was John Proctor. He
Mm-hmm.
in fact was hanged as a witch. He
Mm-hmm.
was not a witch, and even if he were, I mean, what are you doing hanging people? But anyway, he has a line in the play where they're in court, which I mean, it was a kangaroo court,
Yeah.
and everyone's being accused, and he says a line that I just think is brilliant and timely for right now. And the line is, "Hmm, we are as we always were, only naked now."
Mm-hmm.
We have
Yeah.
America has never been the nation she has purported to be. She has
Mm-hmm.
never been the PR, you know, press release that she has sent out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
People overseas thought we were who we said we were, and even those of us who are here who are Black, right? You say to yourself, wait, my experience is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. But everybody seems to think that that's what we are: apple pie, Chevrolet, mom. And so, and I noticed that if I step out of line and I comment on the fact that this doesn't seem like that, I get slapped down. So, what I'm going to do is
Yeah.
I'm going to understand where I am. I'm a stranger in a strange land. I am a
Yeah.
wandering Aramaean. I am Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because I'm not the one crazy. This situation is crazy. Well, fortunately now, as John Proctor says, we are, as we always were, only naked now, meaning what good thing can we take away? I thought about it yesterday for Thanksgiving. I did a video, very short one the day before Thanksgiving, and I was like, what do we have to be thankful for? Here's what we have to be thankful for, that we have another opportunity to see ourselves as we really are and to make a decision to see the nakedness and do something about it. So I think that for before people can even do stuff, for a lot of people, for Black people, I think it's for us, it's like, well, I knew I wasn't crazy. And now the whole world knows that I wasn't crazy. And that feels really good. But it's kind of like what I like in this too is a cornered rat.
Hmm.
A cornered rat, if you were to turn on the light in a, I don't know, let's say a kitchen, and you see a rat, and that rat will freeze and then bare its teeth. And there you are with the broom. And it's a
Mm.
question of existential, it's an existential question for both of you, for you and the rat. Now, we've been in this position many, many times. The light's
Yes.
gone on, we've seen the rat, we've taken the broom, but some people say, you know what? This is too hard. You know what I'm gonna do? I came here in the middle of the night to get a glass of water out of the refrigerator, but I see that there's a rat and its teeth are bared. And you know what? I'm going to just act because it's the middle of the night. I'm going to act like that was a nightmare and I'm going to go back to bed. That's the thing.
See,
That's why the whole thing
that's
about
it.
wokeism. Why do
Yeah.
you want to be woke? Woke means awake. What's the
Yeah.
opposite of woke? Asleep. If you don't see
In
that,
denial.
that rat can win. He'll take over your
Yeah.
whole damn house. Right? So first, we need to acknowledge who we really are, whom we've always been, and what our role, and when I say our, I'm using the royal our, meaning I'm including, everybody in it, white people, black, what has been our role in it? To what degree have we been complicit with it? Because this is, if we have nothing else to be grateful for, we could be grateful that God woke us up and clothed us in our right mind. We can be grateful that trouble don't last always, and we can be grateful that we have this opportunity to do it again, to see ourselves and act differently.
So you have brought up a batch of things, and I want to say one thing is that I found myself responding to people, and like when you send an email and like a few words before you sign your name to it. So I was writing to people, be true, be
Mhm.
true. And we've been batting off all of these lies up until the very moment, and even afterwards, we were batting away all of the lies. Truth is the thing. And truth is not only just what you say, but it's who you are. It's recognizing who you are and waking up the next morning and realizing that hasn't changed any. I'm still black. I'm still a woman. I'm still queer. I'm still, a pagan. I'm still, progressive. I'm, whatever it is. And that the truth is that I'm going to stand with that.
Mhm.
Whatever's coming at me from the opposite direction, I'm not going to turn tail and run. I'm not going to change my spots. I'm going to live out the life that I was given to live out. Um, I want to take you back to you're talking about, was it John Proctor?
John Proctor was the character, yeah.
Okay, so there were so many people who were murdered in the witch hunts, not because they were witches.
No.
It was like, like I think maybe few, if any, could even be accused of something like that. But they had things that people wanted. Okay. Maybe they had a spouse that somebody wanted, or they had a farm that somebody wanted, or they had, some other property that somebody wanted. And it was just convenient to,
Conversely, there were many who had nothing. The women who were widowed and poor and
Yes.
had no protection, but they
Well,
did
there's
certain
that too.
things like they knew how to what herbs could be used for medicine, right? They,
Yeah.
they had certain gifts of healing and certain skills that people feared. Like us, those we do this kind of esoteric work.
Yes.
I won't be surprised if they come for us.
Well, they're going to come for everything. You
Yeah,
know, if they get it, they get it, get an inch, they'll take a mile. They'll come for whatever they can come for. And that's what we have to watch out is our complicity with that
right.
or our, as look, we're seeing it. You've got a great, to extent that I know about him, a pretty good governor who is
Oh yeah,
saying,
yeah,
uh, no, we're not doing this. We're going to find a way to counter. I've got a governor here in New York who is trying to find a way to make her peace with Trump,
yeah.
and which is no surprise. And
Right,
we also have a mayor in our city, New York City, who is probably looking for some kind of a pardon from him for all of the legal troubles that he's in, or maybe looking for some kind of a job in his administration. Um, it is. We have to be very careful that we don't feed this beast
right,
from our own fear or our own
right,
denial, et cetera, et cetera. It's so easy for people to get twisted, and we saw that. We saw all sorts of people who should know better, getting their minds twisted around or using the opportunity to deflect things from their own problems.
right,
It's like with that North Carolina governor, for instance, who has a world of legal problems, um, using his voice to support Trump and to denigrate Black people and other people,
right,
trans folks.
right.
Um, this is the kinds of things that can happen, and that's what we have to be aware of and careful about. But I think it's really very important to yes, there were women who were able to do certain things with herbs and other traditional practices. But there were also people who got caught up in this because they had things that other people wanted. So again, you look at the what how this country started, by Europeans coming in and ripping this nation, this continent out from under the people who were stewards of this land and saying, no, this is our territory now, and you have to go.
Right.
This really is who we are here. This is really the story.
And I know that people want, so for example, on my channel, people will say, "Oh, your voice is so calm. You have an ASMR voice. I wait to listen to your videos before I go to bed, etc." Listen, I understand everyone's instinct towards wanting calm and reassurance and peace
Mm.
and safety. And I think that it's important that we find spaces to get ourselves those things. But uh, there's work to do. There's work to do. I I
But
remember
calm for who? But really
oh,
calm, who for whom are
I
we
think
getting this
I
calm?
think
And
right.
what is the nature of this calm?
That's right.
Because if, I'm not a mother, but if I were a Black mother and I had to worry about my son being out on the street and shot by a cop, where's my calm?
That's
If
exactly
I,
that's the point.
disabled
That's
person,
the
I have to
point.
worry about, maybe I'm going to get COVID because people are not wearing masks anymore. Where's my calm?
That's the point. But see, this is what I said earlier about, the culture writ large requiring and encouraging white women to be quiet and subservient. It's also the culture writ large encouraging them to value above all else safety, calm, peace, quiet, protection, etc. When it is, first of all, illusory, that's number one. And number two is just, as you just said, there are huge swaths of the population that don't know even what that would look like, have never experienced that ever. From the time they wake up in the morning till the time they go to sleep at night, and they sleep with one eye open because you never know.
Though, you've been mentioning white women a lot. Um, I think that white women have a lot of power,
They do.
actually, that is sometimes acknowledged, sometimes not acknowledged. When we lost Roe v. Wade,
Mm.
when we lost the right to control our own bodies, a lot of women, including or maybe predominantly white women, got up there and said, "This is a bridge too far. This is where you Republicans lose everything." I don't know what happened since then,
That's what I'm
but
asking you. What
that was
happened?
the thing that the Republicans started to be afraid about.
Yeah.
And there is that power. But I was reading something recently. Um, there were a whole lot of white women during the slavery times who were not just inheriting slaves from their deceased husbands, but they were out there wheeling and dealing, buying and selling, and making some serious deals because they can do that. They could do that. They had the where, and there's a lot of research coming out about that.
And it's
So when I
important
look
not
at
to
that, I say,
say it wasn't me, it wasn't my family, I didn't do it.
this
Collectively,
innocence
yes, it
is
was.
questionable. This
Yeah.
innocence is questionable. This sense of, well, we're only holding to this because of the men in our lives is questionable. If you've got that kind of power, if you've got that kind of know-how, can you possibly use it in a different way for a positive thing? I think you can.
It's a question of choice.
It's a question of choice. Now, the other thing that's a little, you know, Trump has um, encouraged so much violence in our society that I know there are a lot of women who probably said, I can't take the risk of being vocal about the way I'm thinking and the way I might be voting. And that in itself is something that we need to kind of look at, that um, that women would actually be subjected to violence as, and they would, because a whole lot of people have been and would be and perhaps will be subjected to violence because of Donald Trump's approach to things and how he has opened up the door for a lot of people to to talk in disrespectful ways about people who are not the same as them, them, to threaten their lives and their families' lives, to do acts of violence in neighborhoods and communities. Um, anything goes.
Yeah.
Anything goes. And this is a person who, thanks to our Supreme Court, uh, probably nobody can do anything with him at this point. I like to call him now as like a greased pig. Nobody can grab hold of
Well,
this,
except that he's an
and say,
entertainment purposes
this is where
only.
you stop. Nobody.
Entertainment purposes only, YouTube. But I mean, there are people who can do things with him, and they are they're people that you see in his cabinet. He is owned, I think. I think he's a pawn and he's owned.
That too. That
So
too. Yes,
there's that. Yeah. Well,
there's that.
can we talk? We just a few minutes left, but I wanted you to
Okay.
talk about your seances in case that would be something that people might like to know about.
Yes, and now for something completely different. Oh my gosh, wish we had kind of like veered a little bit more in this direction, but that's okay. It's all in some strange way connected.
It's all connected. That's
Um,
right.
what I do is every month, on a certain Saturday, which we select every time, in the afternoon, it's from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Um, I open the space on Zoom for folks to come. I usually have some kind of a prompt. Lately, it has been derived from tarot imagery, but it could be other things as well. And you take the prompt, and then you can go off camera and off mic so that you have your own private space. That is your time to commune with whatever you consider spirit to be. I talk about the spirit that we are, the spirit that we have within us, and the spirit that surrounds us. And however you want to define that, that's fine. I'm not going to say use the God word or use whatever specific gods. That is not what I'm doing. I have my own sense of what this all means. Spirit inside of us, spirit outside. That's why I call myself an animist, because that's really how, as humans, we began to apprehend what was going on around us and within us. It's the spirit. So that is your time. You can write, you can draw, you can sing, you can move. I have a number of people since I come from working within the dance community. A lot of people who work with me are have dance backgrounds, so they don't want to sit and meditate. They want to move with it. And anything like that, meditate, even just sit and rest. You don't have to actually do anything. So that goes on for maybe about 20 minutes, and then we come back and we share. And you share whatever, either you can keep certain things private if you like, or you can share them outright. You can just talk about what the process was like for you if you don't want to talk about the content. And amazing insights come out from that. Lots of insights and people sharing things that really moves other people and really informs how they think about their own experience and their own insights. So I've been doing that for quite a while now, and it continues on into next year. The next one we're doing is Saturday, December 21st, again from 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if anyone is interested in being involved in that, you can get on our emailing list. And I'll just give you an email that you can send and let me know that you're interested. And it's Humming Witch. So it's like hummingbird, but it's witch. So it's HUMMING witch, WITCH, at gmail.com. Hummingwitch@gmail.com. And I will put you on the emailing list and I will send you, if you're interested in December 21st, which is solstice, I will send you the link, the Zoom link for that. And then you'll be on the list for our subsequent sessions, our seances that come up starting in January.
It's a lovely opportunity to just sort of be peaceful with yourself and also in community with other people. So, if
Yeah.
it's something that you're looking for, I encourage you to check that out.
Thank you so much
Eva,
for
thank
allowing
you
me
so much
to
for
offer that.
being with me today. And I had hoped that it would be this kind of an organic conversation. I mean, people maybe haven't heard me be so, but as human beings, we all have that in us. And I think, you talk about stages of grief, and no one goes through those in a linear way. You go through one and you think, good, I'm done with that. And then you wonder why, if you were at step 5, now you're all of a sudden back at step 1. Just, I think
Yeah.
it's important for us to feel what we feel. Again, to stay awake. You don't like the word woke? I like the word woke. Stay
Yeah.
woke. And find community where you can both nurture and be nurtured, and do the work that will need to be done in the coming years. But
Yes, and
thank
be
you so
true.
much, Eva. Yes, be true, be true. All right, everybody, I'll see
Thank
you
you.
next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.